travel back in time to a place full of history and railroad magic. Pullman Railroad Days returns. A whole weekend of historic rail cars, tours, and unforgettable family fun.
Okay, let me see. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our historic Pullman Foundation podcast. This is our official podcast. This is only our second episode. And today we'll be talking about Railroad Days, which is our event, our flagship event that happens on June 1st and June 2nd of this year. And my guest for today is Julie King. She comes to us. I'll let her talk about the organization that she comes from, but she's a specialist in rail cars. And one of the big pulls or the what we're going to have on display at Railroad Days are some rail cars, and we're going to talk about those in just a few moments. Julie, why don't you introduce yourself to our audience and let us know your organization? I've got how many letters? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 letters in your as the acronym for your organization, the AAPRCO. Can you please elaborate on what is AAPRCO and what you guys are going to be doing at our Railroad Days event this year?
I'll be happy to, Robert. I'm the executive director for the American Association of Private Railroad Car Owners, and it's been our pleasure to conduct public tours of Pullman-built rail cars at Pullman Railroad Days. Well, really, since your grand opening celebration back even before the national park status was granted, when Pullman was a monument. But we were there at the opening celebration and have been pleased to participate in the ensuing years, and our car owners just love to bring their historic cars to the site, and we offer public tours of them, docent led, all day long Saturday, all day long Sunday.
That's awesome. So the American Association of Private Railroad Car Owners. So there's an association for people who own railroad cars?
Right. You didn't know that was possible till you took this position, did you? Well, you're not alone. This is not something that is well known to the public. However, yes, indeed, there are individuals who actually own their own rail car, and those cars can be attached to regularly scheduled Amtrak trains and go any place in the country that Amtrak goes. They can be formed into a special train, which is one of the things that our organization does a couple times a year, and go on special excursions and trips. And then, as we will be doing at Pullman Railroad Days, Metra will be our host railroad. They will supply the power, and we will bring our cars to the 111th Street and Grove platform to let the public see these unique and historic rail cars.
That is awesome. So this on June 1st and June 2nd, I just want to let the audience know that if you're interested in coming out to Railroad Days, actually it's called Pullman Railroad Days.
Yes.
I apologize. There are railroad days that happen all throughout this country, but Pullman Railroad Days is the only one happening in a national park here in Chicago. It's the only national park in Chicago. And our tickets are on sale right now for, I believe, $26 each. And after a certain date, they're going to go up. This is a recording, so I'm not sure what day you're going to be watching this. So the discount might already be over by the time this comes out. But right now, today on May 14th, the tickets are $26 each. And I think they're going to jump up a little bit. So it's on discount right now, but go ahead and get your tickets. You can go on our website. The website is on the ticker Right below us is www.pullmanil.org. That's PULLMANIL.org. Thank you, Julie, for the explanation of your organization, and we appreciate you partnering with us this year. Actually, with I don't know what we would be able to display if we didn't have a relationship with you. You're the
Well,
one who.
you have a fantastic grounds. The former site of the Pullman Car Works, but it is really we're proud to be able to hopefully maybe put the cherry on top by actually bringing examples of cars that Pullman built and letting the public see them.
That is awesome. Why don't you tell us a little bit about those rail cars that you're bringing to our Pullman Railroad Days event?
So there will be 3 cars this year, and the oldest of those cars, which is named the Dover Harbor, it was built in 1923. So this car is actually approaching or having its 100th anniversary year. That has not yet completed. So this is again a very historic car. It was built originally as a baggage library car, and it had 4 sections: a 12-seat lounge, a barber shop. Can you imagine getting a shave while you were traveling along on the rails back in the day? And then, as the name would imply, the baggage area. The car was rebuilt. It went back to the Pullman shops in 1934. Pullman reconfigured it, and that is the appearance that it will be shown in at Railroad Days. It is the only heavyweight revenue service car that is still in its original Pullman configuration. So the car has been reconfigured, and it was rebuilt now with 6 double bedrooms, a buffet, and a lounge, and that is the formation or the configuration in which the public will view it on the 1st and 2nd of June.
Awesome.
The next car that everyone will see is called the Blue Ridge Club. Now, when you go from the Dover Harbor into the Blue Ridge Club, you're actually transitioning eras. You're going from the old, early heavyweight cars into the lighter Streamliner era cars. And the Streamliner era came about in the 30s when Edward Budd and the Budd Company figured out how to advance their techniques in stamping and molding stainless steel. So these cars are, just as the name would imply, they are lighter weight, and they have that sleek, shiny exterior that many of us associate with rail cars. But the Blue Ridge Club was built in 1950 by Pullman Standard. It originally saw service on the Chesapeake and Ohio Railroad, and it is a blunt end observation car. An observation car has larger windows, just like the name would imply, so that as you're traveling along the rails, you get a great view outside. You can sit in the lounge. The porter brought you drinks, brought you snacks, and you could visit with your traveling companions and see the countryside go by. And blunt end means just what it sounds like. This is not a round end observation car, but it has a blunt end, which allows it to travel equally well in the consist or at the end of the train. And the last car that we're going to see is the Hollywood Beach. This car was built in 1956. It first saw service on Seaboard Airlines New York, Florida Silver Meteor service. What is really unique about the Hollywood Beach is that it is a solarium car. And as you might expect, what that means is that it has extremely large windows that start right about tabletop and curve up over the passenger's head. So you get, even though you're not up in an observation level car, you get an amazing view just sitting there right in the lounge area. And there just aren't very many of those in Amtrak certified service today. So that'll be a very unique thing for your guests at Pullman to be able to see.
Wow, that sounds amazing. The 3 different cars that rail cars that you just explained. One question that just popped in my head is that I know that Pullman originally made wooden cars, and then he started making metal cars at some point. Are any of these trains, I'm assuming the last 2 you talked about are metal cars, but was the first one a wooden car?
There would be no wooden cars in service today. As you can imagine, they are not durable. There were some terrible accidents with them back in the day.
Okay.
And so, no, there are no wooden cars in service. But the older Dover Harbor, the 100-year-old car, the heavyweight car, was literally made with heavier material, heavier metal than the more modern stainless steel. When I say modern, we're still talking the 50s.
Yeah.
I mean, these cars are by any standard antiques. Everything from the trucks up is an antique car. But in order to move in Amtrak service, all the running gear, all the truck systems, everything must meet current Amtrak standards, just like any other car that a modern day passenger would ride.
Sure. Now, earlier I mentioned that there are all sorts of railroad days that go on all throughout this country. Is your organization also involved in different railroad days throughout the country?
I think you'll be happy to know, Robert, that you are it. We are, Pullman is the only railroad days that AAPRCO participates in as an organization.
Wow.
And happy to do it.
It's a possibility that the trains the rail cars that you guys are associated with, they're not associated with any other railroad days throughout the country.
There may be individual car owners, I'm not aware of any, but that take rail cars to their local community railroad days festivals. But keep in mind that rail cars don't move themselves. They must be under power, and that is 99% of the time, that is Amtrak power. So in order for a car to move to any location, it's usually Amtrak that has to get it there. So access to the system and switching capabilities are always a requirement.
Got you. Now, Julie, tell me a little bit about how you got involved in the Pullman Railroad Days events.
Well, back when Pullman was having its grand opening celebration, Joe Szabo, former FRA administrator and head of the Historic Pullman Foundation, reached out to us because despite the fabulous grounds, the wonderful clock tower building, the museum, the exhibits, all the assets that we know exist there in the Pullman community, you don't have any Pullmans yet. And while he is feverishly working and effectively working to bring those to Pullman, AAPRCO was able to step in and fill the void and bring cars, actual products of Pullman factory workers, to the site.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Yeah, our Pullman Railroad Days is coming up June 1st, June 2nd. It's an amazing event. And Julie, you've come to our railroad days, our Pullman Railroad Days in the past.
I have not just come, Robert. I lead tours. So, and I have to tell you, even though we start at 8 and we don't stop till 5 and there's no lunch break, this is one of my best weekends, my most favorite weekends of the year, because it is the stream of people coming through the cars just doesn't quit all day long, but they are so appreciative and so curious and so interested to see this little glimpse into what historic rail car travel was like. And I think it helps people stop and think a little bit about the value of rail travel. Even today, that is one of the great things about the rail story, that rail travel still offers environmental and energy efficiency benefits for our country. And to think about, taking an Amtrak trip is something that maybe a person will consider once they've thought about passenger travel.
Awesome. Well, there you have it, folks. This June 1st and June 2nd is our Pullman Railroad Days. Thanks again, Julie, for coming onto the podcast and explaining to us the rail cars that we're going to see on June 1st and June 2nd. We really appreciate you volunteering for our organization. We really appreciate the partnership that we have with your organization.
As do we. And I'll tell anybody who hears this podcast, get your tickets and show up early, because the line is long and it stays that way all day. We keep it moving. It takes about 45 minutes to do a tour through all 3 cars, but it's for most people, it's a unique, rare chance to see inside these cars. So they don't want to miss it.
Awesome. Again, get your tickets at www.pullmanil.org. That's PULLMANIL.org. Again, thank you, Julie, for coming to our podcast, and we will see you on the at the Pullman Railroad Days
In a couple weeks. I'm
Yes.
looking forward to it.
Yes. Thank you.
Take care.
Okay.
Travel back in time to a place full of history and railroad magic. Pullman Railroad Days returns. A whole weekend of historic rail cars, tours, and unforgettable family fun.